How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO build video. Today is a brand new update for the ever popular Simplar build, the Stamina Templar build that hasn't had an update for almost 4 years. Well, he is back, he is better, and he's brought a friend with him as well. So if you want to see more of this, stay tuned, it is coming right up. So what have we done? Well, this particular build was designed to be stamina based overall when Mag and Stam was a thing. And of course it was designed to be simple, way before 1 bar even existed. Not to say 1 bar couldn't be played, of course it could, but before the Oakensoul Ring that locked your bar. As you can see, we are not using that. So this is accessible for 2 bar players that want something easy to use. Easy being, you basically just need that skill on your back bar, that's it. The rest is passive. Now, I know that people are going to sit there and go, well, that passive overlaps. Some of them do, but they have other passives attached to them that is worth the trade-off. Anyway, we're going to go into the basic stats first of all, so this starts making a bit of sense. We have 12.7k max Magicka, 24.8k max health, and 30k max stamina. Magic recovery is 771. That is relevant. That is helpful. We do need that. Health recovery is in the middle somewhere. It's not too bad, but we don't really need to focus too much on that. But if you get any extra recovery later, that does add up. 968 on the stam recovery. Yes, of course, you can heavy attack to get back resources, and of course, you can change your glyphs or food if you need to. But it's in a pretty good state nonetheless, because we do actually have recovery based on one of the Warden skills that doesn't show on here. Now, we also need to make sure that we maintain this. We have 5,460 weapon and spell damage. That does go up in combat quite a lot, especially if you have buffs, bonuses from your group, and of course your own weapon glyphs that is going to be firing from our back bar. 54.6% crit chance on both sides. That will go up in combat as well if you get buffs from your group. And of course our pen is sitting on a healthy almost 4k. Our resistances are relatively low, so you do have to consider that you will need major resolve from your group if possible. People can give this to you now, and they have been able to for quite some time, but your resistances are relatively low, so be careful. You're a bit of a glass cannon, even though you can actually heal quite well and hit quite hard. So, 64 points into max stamina, and of course, we are taking advantage of flat food. Flat stamina, flat health. That doesn't show the stats properly. It says 0-0, but it's not. It's actually just over 5k health and just over 5k stamina, just under 5k stamina. Now, I understand that people are incredibly impatient. They go to YouTube to not watch videos, apparently, and they want to skip just to the bit they want. Well, there's a lot in this video that explains how everything functions. If you're interested in that, please stay, obviously. But before we do that, we're going to go straight into the gear for the impatient people. That way you don't have to find it in the timestamps, which is down below, by the way. This is using 2 deadly daggers on the front bar. Both of them in precise, and we're using a poison. This particular poison will be on the website, of course, but it is a double dot poison. It was far stronger than using 2 individual glyphs, but if you don't have poisons, then of course flame and poison as the glyphs if you can. Now, bear in mind, this is designed very specifically to take advantage of lots of different buffs and bonuses combined, and your light attacks, while important, are not going to make or break the build. But if you can weave one in every so often, that would be great, because then this will fire. The cooldown is quite long, the application is quite long, so it's very, very easy to maintain. There is a chance base, obviously, but as long as you're weaving a light attack every so often, it will go off. And the back bar is the Maelstrom weapon, which is the bow. You do not need perfected, because you're only going to benefit from that crit chance on the back bar, and you're not going to be there for very long anyway. But the proc itself, that supports volley or any morph of that particular skill, will obviously escalate your DPS quite dramatically, and this glyph will fire just by it being there. So you maintain your back bar dot and stay on the front for the rest of the time. This doesn't, like I said, have to be deadly. It can be the other set, which is crafted, which means it's easy for you to get. We are taking advantage of deadly and tideborne. Bear in mind, of course, we've got medium armor all the way. So it doesn't matter which order you put the stuff in. The helmet isn't necessarily Zaan. The helmet is any monster set piece that you can get with a crit chance bonus on it, because now they've been standardized and the crit chance bonus for every monster set that has one is the same. Slimecraw is no longer stronger than all the rest. Every one of them is now the same. So any monster helmet or shoulder that you can put on to give you that 1 crit chance bonus. And then you just wiggle the set the rest of the way. So Tideborne with stamina and divines on absolutely everything, or deadly with divines on absolutely everything, and you need to make sure you've got 2 daggers up front and the Maelstrom weapon on the back. If you can manipulate your setup to manage to fit all this stuff, you are all good. Bear in mind, jewelry is important as well. Deadly on the jewelry. Bloodthirsty on absolutely everything, weapon and spell damage with stamina recovery on everything, and of course the Velothi necklace, which will massively improve your overall DPS from your skills alongside the sets that we've got. So let me explain. Tideborn increases all direct damage against monsters, not players, monsters, meaning your jabs and your Jesus Beam both get buffed. This boosts all damage that you do by 15% and grants you minor force at all times. So again, versus monsters, all of your damage is improved by 15%. Then you've got Deadly, which increases your damage over time or channeled effects. Now, jabs and Jesus Beam are not damage over time, but they are channeled. So this, and this all boost your major spammable, your damage over time, and of course, your Jesus Beam. So you actually have now an execute on this particular build, but your execute and your spammable are supported. Now remember, the direct damage doesn't apply to volley, but this does, and so does this. Now, the order in which to put this in, again, doesn't matter. So if you can't find Deadly very cheap, you don't need to. If you can't find the daggers for Deadly very cheap, you don't need to. The jewelry and the weapons are generally quite expensive, but the armor is cheap. So get the cheap versions of the armor, trait change them if you need to, and then craft your weapons and jewelry with at least one piece crafted as well. It's very simple to put together. You will find this stuff on the market all the time. If not, you can go and buy it from Cyrodiil for Alliance points, which, if you haven't paid attention to recently, were free in the daily rewards. Now, bear in mind, with this setup, this particular necklace, like I said earlier with the light and heavy attacks not being quite as important, does reduce the damage of your light and heavy attacks by 99%. So, if you're not very good at weaving, it does not matter. But if you can maintain a few weaves here and there, you will get a small amount of increased DPS, but you will, of course, be able to fire off your poisons more often. Again, here, if you had glyphs, you would have to be much, much more careful with your light attacks. But with the poison, you need to fire off at least one every 10 seconds. If you do that, you're pretty much good to go. Obviously, it's not guaranteed, but you have a decent chance to proc this, and it is less pressure. Anyway, now we're going to get into the skills. So, Power of the Light, quite simple. Starts off in Dawn's Wrath as Backlash, morph it to Power of the Light. This is a stamina costing skill. It's quite cheap, and it does increase your overall damage by a metric crap ton if you hit the target when this is present. You can only have one on at a time, but when you activate this, it will put a light on the target and do direct physical damage. Then, there is a 6-second duration where you must damage the target. Depending on the damage done, depends on the bonus damage that this will fire when it pops. It will pop with more direct damage, but it will do up to 200% more depending on how much you've done. So this can end up hitting incredibly hard. That tooltip is not accurate at all as to the outcome that can come from this. But this also applies Sunder, which increases your weapon and spell damage for that duration, 4 seconds, because it's a status effect that lasts for 4. And it will do initial physical damage as well. So it's 2 pops of physical damage right away with increased weapon and spell damage and a 6-second duration of you go hell for leather on that target and it will go bang. Listen carefully. Do not overlap this. If you overlap it, it'll just start again. You need to let it explode. Now, one more thing to consider. Power of the Light is physical direct damage when it fires and explodes, but due to its duration of damage at the beginning and damage at the end, it also stacks with damage over time because it considers the 2 start and finish pops as actual ticks of a dot. So with direct damage and damage over time bonuses, it actually ends up getting buffed twice. Now, Solar Barrage is next. This is very, very simple. This is a damage over time ability that you activate and leave running. Enemies close to you will take damage every 2 seconds, and all of your class abilities, yes, including the Warden, class abilities will be increased by 5%. So all your temper skills hit harder, and so does that bear. While this ability is active, you gain in power. Bear in mind, your heavy attacks are really, really weak on this particular build, but you've got that boost in it nonetheless. You may need to heavy attack occasionally for resources if you're struggling, but don't worry, we're using physical weapons anyway, so wait for an off-balance moment and fill your bar up nice and quickly and just carry on where you were. Radiant Glory is our main execute. We didn't have an execute on the previous Simplar. Game's changed. Mag versus Stam is basically dead and you can use whatever you want. This is incredible. We have a set that gives us bonus to damage over time or channeled. This is channeled. We have a set that gives us direct damage increase. This is direct damage. And we have a set that gives us damage increase. This is damage. So this is boosted by absolutely everything. Once the target gets down to low health, you need to be using this instead of your jabs. So 33% health and lower, this escalates dramatically. It's almost a 4-second channel and it will drain 616 magicka per 0.7 seconds. So this will take your magical bar instead of your stamina bar. But since we're taking advantage of tripods and we've got decent magical recovery anyway, we can actually maintain this at low health. Be sure to take synergies, of course, but if you do start running very, very dry, switch to your jabs for a little bit and then put this back on again. You will recover very, very quickly. You can actively use this really, really well in low health situations. Bear in mind, this also heals you. This version is cheaper than the other one. This version heals you. So the more damage you do with this, the more heals you get at low health. Remember, we don't have Major Resolve. You can acquire that from your group or finding other skills that will support it if you want to swap them. That's a choice you can make. But we do actually heal during the channel, so we do take much, much less damage effectively because we're constantly filling it back up again. Anyway, 33% health and lower, spam this on target. Speaking of spamming, this is what you use the rest of the time. This will actually hit all targets in front up to 6, and this has been changed. Instead of it hitting the front target for loads of damage and the rest for splash, they all get hit for equal amounts. Absolutely banging. So that is your main light attack hit, spammable skill. Adric's Spear skill line, first ability to unlock, take the Stamina Morph. Now bear in mind, while this does physical damage to multiple enemies in front of you, and it snares them as well, each strike has a 10% chance to apply Sunder on top of the Sunder that we already have from Power of the Light. Bear in mind, Sunder's status will actually overlap itself over and over and over if you maintain it, maintaining your extra weapon and spell damage increase, and of course, applying extra direct damage from each pop. Activating this ability also grants you Major Sorcery and Brutality if you're using it, but bear in mind we do actually have that covered as well. So if you forget your buff on the back bar, which I would highly recommend you don't, you will still maintain this buff indefinitely because you're using your jabs. The one thing to consider, however, at Execute, if this runs out, you're going to want to sneak one in every so often in order to maintain it, or simply maintain this on the back, which we're coming to shortly. Either way, the short version is maintain Brutality and Sorcery at all times. Camouflage Hunter. This is here to give us minor Berserk behind targets, to give us Major Savagery and Prophecy at all times for being slotted, and to give us an increased extra weapon and spell damage from Fighters Guild passives. Do not press this button. Leave it there, let it do its job. You're welcome. Next, we've got a Warden pet. That's right, we've got a new ultimate on this particular build. Bear in mind, if you do not have the Warden class unlocked, then obviously this won't be accessible to you. Morrowind is base game now, but I believe the class probably isn't. If it is, great. If it isn't, then of course you don't have it. You can buy it from the Crown Store, or you can take the bear off completely and simply double Dawnbreaker this build. From testing, 2 Dawnbreakers, one on the back, one on the front, is still perfectly fine. The Dawnbreaker itself allowed you to have weapon and spell damage increase on either bar, and the activation of it gave you a lot of damage and increased weapon and spell damage during its duration. This is stronger, but if you don't have access to the Warden, utilize that instead. But if you do have access to the Warden, I'm assuming you do, you need this skill. This is from the Animal Companion skill line. We have subclassed into Animal's Companion, and we've taken off Restoring Light. I know. Anyway, you want this particular morph. Feral Guardian will apply bleed damage. It has quadruple the chance of applying hemorrhage status, and it has very high execute damage. All you need to do is activate this every time your ultimate hits 71 and weave it in like any other spammable at the time. It's incredibly cheap. It will constantly do damage anyway, but that ultimate hit is very, very hard. Now, I know the other morph actually hits harder at execute, but this one actually does more consistent damage and ended up overall stronger for this particular build. All you need to do is keep the pet double barred and use it when it pops. Vigor is here as a heal. Need a heal? Here's a heal. It's from Assault skill lines, by the way. I choose to use this particular one because it helps the group as well, and it's a much longer duration, so it's easier on your sustainability. But if you want the other one for emergency heals, up to you. What I do see people doing, though, is every time they had the other one, which is shorter and more expensive technically because they're going to use it more often, I see them spamming it. That's not good. It's going to mess up your resources. So this longer duration, paced version is much, much more efficient for this particular setup. Depends on the player, though. Anyway, Camo Hunter again, it's on both bars. We've got Fighters Guild passive on both bars. We've got Berserk on both bars. We've got Major Prophecy and Savagery on both bars. Brutality and Savagery covered means we do not need weapon pots. We will use tripods. This here is to give you an extra Berserk on the bar if you don't have this already slotted, because this can be swapped out for a flex slot. If you choose to, you can use something else here, a resistance buff perhaps from the Mages Guild if you wanted to use balance, or anything else that suits your playstyle. Perhaps your group needs bubbles, who knows what you need. But if you want to, you can swap that out. Failing that, what this actually does is allows us to still have a crit damage bonus on the back bar. Technically speaking, our crit damage bonus is very, very high anyway, so you don't technically need it, but it is pretty good nonetheless. And of course, you've got a bit of an expedition bonus if you need it. So this is utility based. This will give you minor berserk all the time. This will give it while standing behind the target, but it will also give you the extra bonuses from the animal companion skill line, and of course, the ability to be fast. Technically speaking, if you dodge roll, you're fast, but if you dodge roll too often with a bow, you will end up overlapping and having that really, really awkward dodge roll fatigue where you end up spending more stamina. Whereas if you just activate this, you don't need to do the dodge rolling, you don't need to possibly end up in that mess, and you're very fast anyway. But it also grants you immunity to snares, so if you are in trouble, you're agile enough to get out. This is a full utility slot that covers the same buff as this, but this one has other passives alongside it. So technically speaking, I would recommend having both on the bar. If you do lose this, you'll lose savagery here, but if you do lose this, you'll lose your agility. The choice is up to you. If you want to start flipping these around and doing other things with them, by all means do so, but they work incredibly well how they are. Anyway, keep this running at all times. It will give you brutality and sorcery, even if you're not using your jabs. So yes, during execute, you have it covered. It's almost like these are chosen on purpose. It's almost like they slot together. Anyway, if you have this running the whole time, it does not show on your bar. It does not show in your stats. It does not show anywhere, tick, 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 how much stamina recovery you have. But this is giving you back stamina every single time it ticks. So read it carefully. 1, every 5 seconds it removes a negative effect. Bear in mind, this is a free ability. You can spam that to get multiple dots off of you if need be. But while it is active for free, over 25 seconds, you will return 4,992 stamina. Again, I have to repeat this. This doesn't show in your stats. So if you're trying to see how much recovery you have, it doesn't show you. This is one of those things that attaches to you and just does its job. So maintain this at all times, not just for brutality and sorcery if you're not using jabs, because you might be an execute, but to keep that stamina recovery bonus up. So on the back bar, you only need 2 skills. This and this. That one's coming up. Volley. Morphed into Endless Hail from the bow skill line. This is your bread and butter for your DPS. Put this on the ground at all times under the targets you are hitting. Not only will it do a phenomenal amount of damage based on the fact that we've got multiple stacking bonuses, i.e. Deadly, Velothi, and the Maelstrom weapon, but also this will continuously trigger your infused weapon glyph. So the infused bonus allows the glyph to fire on a faster cooldown, meaning you can maintain 100% uptime of it to have much, much higher weapon and spell damage at all times. Keep this up, do not let it run out. And the bear's double barred, because otherwise you lose the bear. Now, passives. I can hear people saying, why have you got Minor Berserk? You don't need it. You've already got it with jabs. Well, technically we don't have it with jabs. We have it with an Adric Spear ability. But that is here. You gain Minor Berserk and Minor Protection for 6 seconds. Yes, it's duration based. So if you stop casting, you don't have it. And increases your damage done, reducing damage taken by 5%. So you've got Minor Berserk and Minor Protection. Both opposites of each other. One for damage, one for protection. That will run out. If you're using jabs right now, great, you're maintaining it. But if you have to stop for any reason, you will not maintain it if you don't use a skill. So this actually plugs the gap. So does this. If you're not currently using one of these skills, especially during execute where you'll be using this. That does not trigger it. Unless you want to weave this in every so often, which is complicated for people, this does the job for you. So the passive is relevant, and so are the slottable skills that just work while they're there. Anyway, they double dip in certain areas, but other things are worth the trade-off. This will give you more crit damage on the bar that you have Adric Spear ability slotted. We have one on this one. None on the back, but we've covered that with Warden skills. Don't worry, I'm getting to it. This will give you damage. Burning Light is incredible. The more damage you do, the more often, the more this will proc. Basically, for 3 seconds, you hold on to a buff. Every time you do damage, it will fire it again and reset the timer. Every time you do damage up to 4 times, you get free damage. It's quite simple. This effect can stack every half a second and scales off of the higher of your weapon or spell damage. So basically this will fire every 2 seconds as long as you are constantly doing damage. Increases weapon and spell damage and armor. Easy. Dawn's Wrath. Increases the duration of your solar barrage, which is handy. This will give you ultimate at least once every 6 seconds if you fire a Dawn's Wrath ability. Execute this really easy, just be spamming Jesus Beam and keeping up volley. But the rest of the time, remember when I said fire this once every 6 seconds? If you fire this every 6 seconds, you get ulti back, which means you can fire your bear quicker. Minus sorcery for using a Dawn's Wrath ability for you and your group, which increases your spell damage, and that will obviously be there all the time because we're never going to make that run out. And reduces the health, magicka, stamina, and ultimate costs. Happy days. That's why your bear is 71, not 75. Anytime an animal companion skill ends, you are healed, which means your Betty Netch, your Bull Netch, whichever version you've taken, every time you reactivate it, you will heal. When you cast an animal companion ability while you're in combat, yes, that one counts, you will get ulti. That can happen once every 8 seconds. That's guaranteed to happen at least once every 16 to 24, depending on how accurate you are with the Betty, but it's a benefit nonetheless. Increases your magicka and stamina recovery by 20% for having an animal companion ability slotted. Surprise, it's there. Both bars. And increases your critical damage by 5% for each one slotted as well. On the back bar, we have 2 slotted, so that's an extra 10%. And on the front bar, we only have 1. Now, I know we're saying this is actually 15%, but stay with me. We have this on both bars anyway, so that 5 is default. Ignore that 5%, we've always got it. This here, thanks for the follow, is an extra 10%, while on the front bar, Adric's Spear is 12. So we don't have the extra on here, but we do have 2% more on the front. The back has 10, this has 12, and the 5 covers both sides. Technically speaking, if we want to be nitpicky, it's 17 and 15, but we're not going to pay attention to the pet. We're just going to pay attention to the actual active skills that really benefit us and how they trade off against each other. So overall, 17 and 15, but you get the idea. This one covers 12, these two cover 10. You're not on the back bar long enough to make a really big difference, but it does help to have them there nonetheless. Otherwise, you'd have to slot 2 Adric's Spear abilities and start messing around with this. You'll end up with more crit damage on the back bar. It's not necessary. Anyway. Dual wield. Get every single one of these. They are beneficial to your damage. And, of course, resource management if you were using dual wield abilities. We are not. But we will take advantage of these passives because they do support us even if we're using just lights and heavies. But, of course, you do need to consider this. Daggers. We are using 2 daggers, which increases our crit chance for each dagger. Crit chance is calculated 219 per 1%. We've got a 3% bonus for each dagger. Bow, obviously get every single one of these. They will make you do more damage. They will give you more crit chance. All the good stuff from weapon passives that you should always take. But do bear in mind, if you are closer to the target, your bow damage will be higher. If you're further away, your bow damage will have higher crit chance. We are very close. We're going to get a lot out of that volley. Light armor, we're not taking advantage of any. Yes, I tried it. No, it wasn't beneficial. Don't bother. Medium all the way. Get every single one of these passives. These are fantastic. Stamina recovery, stamina reduction to cost for stamina costing skills, extra crit damage, and extra weapon and spell damage throughout. You do not, by the way, need to really focus into crit damage. This has got more than it needs. If people don't bring loads of effective buffs and bonuses and such, you can still hit very close to cap, if not cap, in different situations just based on the way they're set up. Loads of medium crit damage, loads of Templar crit damage, Warden crit damage, you've got loads. And you've also got Minor Force on tap. Now, Fighters Guild passives, you do want to take advantage of these. We're not actively applying any Fighters Guild, so you don't need this skill, but you will need these too. Increases your weapon and spell damage for each one slotted. On both bars, we've got 3%. So while you can argue about Minor Berserk being on 2 skills, we've got extra damage here for nothing. And also for being on the bar, on both bars, if you get a kill, you get ultimate. So it's not as simple as 2 skills do the same thing. They do have extras. They are done on purpose. So while you can argue this is here and they both do similar things, they also both do something different. So sometimes it's about stacking the things you need rather than only looking tunnel vision at the things that you don't. This also increases damage from Fighter Guild abilities. We're not using any. Bear in mind, if you are using Dawnbreaker because you don't have the bear, that will be relevant to you. Undaunted. This will increase your resource management by taking synergies. Take them. And this will give you resources, or max resources, depending on how many different types of armor you're wearing. We're deliberately wearing one type. Stick to it. The actual increase wasn't a benefit. Your passives changed so dramatically, even with a slight twist, that it did affect the build negatively. Medium all the way. Assault and support isn't necessary unless, of course, you want vigor, which is where it comes from. And, of course, we've got this. We are an orc. Yes, we're an orc. Do you have to be? No. Orc will give you increased stamina, increased health, healing for doing damage once every 4 seconds, which can crit, and increase weapon and spell damage, and reduction to sprint cost, and you're fast. Fast, tough, healy, and hit hard. If you want to be any other race, you can be. Just understand it will mildly affect the build in the way that the passives support it or don't support it. How you play is up to you. Any race will function perfectly fine. You might just have to alter the way you play ever so slightly or tweak some stats. So if you've got something that doesn't have extra weapon and spell damage, your damage is going to be slightly less. You probably won't even notice the difference to that extent unless you're really, 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 really good. But then some can give you higher recovery, etc., etc. There's lots of different benefits. Nord, for example, doesn't give you weapon and spell damage, but it does give you more resistances. So you're tankier, you might be in the fight longer, you might be doing better. It varies. This is chosen on purpose for these. If you want to change it, change it. Alchemy. You're going to be using tripods. You have magic recovery, health recovery, stamina recovery. Maintain them. If you stop firing them and only think that you are going to be benefiting when you're low, you're not. If you only use potions when you're low, you only have enough for about 2 or 3 skills and then you're out again. If you maintain them indefinitely, you take the extra pop every so often as a bonus and you maintain recovery from those stats. The stats increase come from major endurance, major intellect, and major fortitude. You need to keep them up. This particular buff here will allow your potions to last their full uptime, which means you'll never have a gap unless you stop pressing them. Always use your potions. I know some people think they're precious, but do you want to play the build effectively, or do you want to hold on to your potions and not actually ever use them and just have them for the sake of being ornaments? They are consumable buffs. Consume them. Champion points. Wrong button. Good start. This is quite simple. Get these passive bonuses here to unlock these 2 major trees. Now, of course, you've got some mitigation bonuses here, but we're going to look at this from a newer player perspective and understand that there are things that need to be unlocked and there are things you need to prioritize before all the rest of the stuff that you inevitably will get. So these 2 here need to be unlocked to get these trees open. You will need Wrathful Strikes. That's your first slottable you need to go to. Then, once you've unlocked this tree here, obviously you want to go down these routes eventually, get as much of those as you can, but you need 3 more slottables. This one here, Deadly Aim, will do extra damage to single target, or direct single target abilities. Not necessarily direct, it can be damage over time, but single target abilities. Anything like a light attack, or a heavy attack, or a Jesus Beam, or anything that is considered single. Thaumaturge for damage over time. That is going to affect our volley. That is also going to affect potential damage from our poisons. That is helpful. I know Jesus Beam and Jabs are not damage over time, but this does benefit one of our very hard-hitting damage over time area of effect skills. It was worth it. Then, of course, Master at Arms. Master at Arms increases your direct damage. Now, I can see people arguing, why don't you take Bite and Aura instead? That'll boost your jabs and your volley. Technically true. But this boosts our jabs all the time. This boosts our volley all the time on top of what we've already got. And this also further boosts our Jesus Beam. Now, bear in mind, the Area of Effect bonus is not going to boost the Jesus Beam. So during Execute, you're not benefiting from this passive at all, apart from this one skill. So, Volley can benefit from this for the time being. This can be used instead to benefit from single target and direct, so our Jesus Beam is higher. We've got a really good balance of the 3 there. They were tried in multiple different combinations, and the outcome was better in this order. This also gave us benefits to our poisons, rather than not. Red Tree. Nice and simple. Max health, max armor. You can choose this recovery bonus if you really want to. That is entirely up to you. That might help you maintain in a fight, or you might want a heavy attack occasionally. But in fast-paced scenarios where you're killing lots of things at once, this actually worked out really, really well. This here, more health, so you want to lay it down here, and take these 2. Bloody Renewal will give you increased return from stamina, so you get stamina back per kill, and this gives you magicka back per kill. This helps you maintain really fast-paced Jesus Beams, but if you're not struggling with it at all, then don't worry about it and just put this recovery bonus on. Green Tree doesn't matter at all. This is all passive. It doesn't really affect combat whatsoever, but you might want to get this so that your food lasts longer. This so that you can pop a potion and probably won't even consume one if you're lucky. And then you do want to put this on. Steed's Blessing will make you faster between fights. Generally speaking, you're just quick. The rest of it is up to you. I would recommend this, however, so that your charges take a lot longer time to run out. There's a chance that they won't even consume a charge when hitting. Technically speaking, that only affects our back bar, but it's nice nonetheless. Now, how do you use the build? How do you play it? Well, this is the easy part. Most of this stuff is passive. Example. Unless you're in a jam, you don't need to fire this. or this, or on this bar this. That's all passive. Don't even fire it. The bear, in fact, does what he does best by beating people up until the ulti's ready. So a lot of the time, you're not even pressing anything. So what do you need to do? What do you need to press? So this here, flare, 22-second heal over time, or damage over time even. And the Betty, or the Bullnetch, 25 seconds. These are very long durations for you to just maintain. Look at the timers on the bar. They're in your options. You can set ability timers. What you need to do is keep an eye on them. Just waiting around while they just work. Okay, maintain that. So these two need to be maintained at all times. In the meantime, you need to do this. You need to fire volley, swap bars, and spam jabs. Light jabs, light jabs, light jabs, light jabs, light jabs. You get the idea. Light jabs. Keep an eye on the two bars underneath. There's one on one side, one on the other. You can see the yellow loading bars. When it runs out, your volley's ready. Fire again. Light jabs, light jabs, light jabs. Now let's make it more complicated. As well as doing that, you need to maintain power of the light once every 6 seconds. So when you fired your volley on the back bar, you need to then apply power of the light instantly. So the main structure of the build has already been explained as far as the rotation is concerned. Volley and jabs is your main thing that you need to maintain alongside these two buffs. So volley, swap, light, power of the light, light jabs, light jabs, light jabs, jabs. When it's about to run out, it's nearly zero. Bang, fire another one. Jabs, 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 jabs. It's about to go down to zero. When it goes to zero, light attack, fire, power of the light, volley, swap back, carry on again. As soon as power of the light is ready, fire it, maintain your buff, and carry on. And keep going, and going, and going, and going. When it's ready again, fire it, swap bars, volley, go back. Now, bear in mind, resources are going to be low there, because I'm not in a group. We don't have all the buffs and bonuses. We don't have any synergies to take advantage of. That's something you have to consider. There are a bunch of dummies there. You're going to be there for bloody ages, unless you're using recovery food. But in a fight, things are dying, you'll get resources back. So, to simplify, you need to fire your volley, fire your power of the light, and then jabs until power of the light is run out. Power of the light again. Jabs until it's run out. Then power of the light again and swap bars. And volley. From there on, it will stagger ever so slightly. So it's going to be quite dynamic or active for you to maintain that or keep an eye on it. Or you can just keep it really, really simple. And you can make sure that you fire 2 power of the lights and multiple jabs each rotation. As long as you maintain a visual on this particular bar at the bottom there, you can see on the far right-hand side, the R1, there is a small loading bar going down. That is my volley running out. As long as that is active, jabs, 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 power of the light, jabs, jabs, jab, power of the light. As long as that never runs out. Always go back and refire it. Continue. Bear should be fired when it's ready, and that's pretty much it. Now, generally speaking, it should look a bit like this. Keep the Betty on, make sure this is active, run in, bear, power of the light, jab your ass off. All you need to do is that. Power of the light is ready, jab again. And just keep going. Power of the light is ready, volley, back in again. Now, technically speaking, on that particular bar, you could have light attack, reapplied the Betty, but all you need to do is maintain your active buffs and jab, 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 or keep them volley up and power of the light. It is more complex than a regular 1-bar build in most cases, but it is far less complex than most 2-bar setups. You only really need, apart from this buff, 1 skill to fire on the back. Don't stay there very often. Light attack skill, swap, jab, 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 while firing power of the light when you can. Remember, don't let it overlap, let it go bang. You'll get the most damage out of it if you do. Now, when you get to 33% health, it's really easy. You fire this, and you fire this. And you maintain Jesus Beam. When it runs out, light attack, fire. And then if your buffs run out, fire the buffs, volley, back to beaming. During that time, of course, you can activate your ultimate, which makes your bear do loads of damage. That's it. You have enough sustainability to maintain your Jesus Beam at low health indefinitely, as long as you keep up your volley and your buffs, and don't overspam flare. If you do start running low, simple. Swap to jabs for a few hits, and then go back to beams again. So, short version. Volley, power of the light, at least 3 or 4 jabs. Power of the light, at least 3 or 4 jabs. Power of the light, swap. Volley, start again. That's it. Maintain these 2 at all times. Keep an eye on your ability timers. Here's where I help you more. Options. Combat. ability bars, timers on, back bar on. That way, anything that has numbers in the bar telling you that your skill has got X, Y, and Z amount of seconds left, when you swap, it will turn into a loading bar that goes backwards. Once that goes down, that's when it's gone. That will take some practice, but once you nail it, you will do a huge amount of damage. For a very, very, very simple yet effective build, if you're not very experienced, you're going to crack around 95 to 100k out of it. If you're very experienced, then you're going to hit anywhere between 107 and 112. Bear in mind, those particular numbers are regarding that very extremely rigged target dummy that is used to make stupid people even more stupider. Yeah, I said stupider. Because it is set to have very specific buffs and bonuses, timed and calculated on it at all times with a very unusual amount of health. Most trial bosses don't have that much health, they have much more. What it is it's a test for you to have very specific things in place. There are at least 20 plus buffs, bonuses, synergies, and sets that do not and cannot or are not present or can apply on that thing, so things can change dramatically. That is not the all and end of. That does not tell you how you're going to play in content, but if you are testing against that thing for the sake of those particular variables that are in place right now, that's what you can expect. If you're not experienced, you're going to be under 100. If you are experienced, you're going to be 106 to 112, maybe 107 to 112 tops. Your execute, by the way, based on the fact that your bear hits incredibly hard and your Jesus beam is disgusting, during execute, not the whole fight, but during that time, your DPS, your damage per second during execute, if you're paying attention, can exceed 400k. That is explained very clearly, but probably not necessarily received so well. Your execute phase is phenomenal. You do a huge amount of damage at low health. The rest of it is nice, balanced, single target and AoE. The execute is insane. Anyway, people, fashion time. I've waffled enough. Don't trust the dummy. It's only there for practice. If you think you've got the buttons in the right order, go play bloody content. Anyway, we are using the blind, the medium mask, and everything else is heavy. What's it actually called? Blind Path Cultist. Now, colors-wise, we are using the Frozen Blood, I think. Which it is. Yeah, Frozen Blood for the reds. And we're using Void Pitch for the black. That is from Battle Shrine Hollows. Now, the weapons, blind again for the daggers, and the bow is actually an Ilark's Chosen. So we've got a Dremora or Daedra type or Zivkin type bow on the back there. Technically speaking, the blind does look kind of cool, so you could just use that anyway. But we're using blind absolutely everything apart from the bow. You know what? We're going to do some editing in the video. We're changing it. It's blind. Blind everything. Medium hat, heavy everything, blind weapons. There you go. That will be on the website. Hopefully enjoy. People, if you are struggling, don't worry. The website will have the rotation written down, so that makes more sense. If you do go low on resources, you've got two options. Well, three technically. Change your glyphs on your jewelry to cater for your needs. Heavy attack in between, obviously to make your bars go up. Or bring someone with loads of synergies and take those. Anyway, people, thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you're not subscribing already, hit that button. It's free. And I will see you in the next video. Don't forget, everything you need is on the written guide as well in the description below. Bye-bye.